Hi guys, welcome to Fine Dining for Fun. Today I have been absolutely inspired by helping my friend Caitlin working on her intro sommelier class for wines. And so I got absolutely inspired to make some fresh pasta. Fresh pasta is very close to my heart. I got to do fresh pasta when I worked at August in New Orleans, and it's just something that I really love to do. It's so simple and it's so satisfying, and it's just a great way to get your foot wet when it comes to fine dining. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the dough. What I have here is a pound of flour. For those of you that don't have conventional kitchen scales in your kitchen, 1 pound of flour is about 3.4 cups, give or take. So it may affect the recipe slightly, but if you do have a kitchen scale, absolutely use it. It's a great tool. Next, I'm going to add 1 pinch of salt into my flour. A pinch in a recipe is not exact, but for the purposes of a pasta dough especially, be careful with your pinch. Don't overdo it. Don't underdo it. My pinch is about the size of a teaspoon and a half. I've actually measured it because I'm a huge food nerd, but do as you like. Next, I have 4 eggs and 1 egg yolk. Now, what the egg yolk is going to do is it's going to give our pasta this really nice richness and body. The eggs themselves are more of a structural tool in the pasta, so I'm just going to go ahead and add my egg yolk right in with their whole eggs. Then I have 2 tablespoons of water. I'm just going to dip that right into our mixture, and 1/4 cup of oil. It can be whatever kind of oil you like. I'm a fan of Mediterranean blend oils, so that's usually going to be a combination of extra virgin, grapeseed, and plain vegetable oil. I just find that it gives a nice flavor throughout. Also notable, the flour I am using is AP. There are other options as far as 00 or semolina flours, but those give you different kinds of doughs. With AP, you're going to get a more standard soft dough. With semolina, you're going to get a harder dough, and with 00, you're going to get a very traditional Italian style pasta at the end of the day, which is kind of a cool thing. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to mix together all of these liquid ingredients I've just combined. So you have your 4 eggs, your egg yolk, the water, the oil. And I just want to mix it up really well before I even try to get it into the flour, just to be sure that I get a really homogeneous mixture in the end. Next, what I'm going to do is called the well method. Now, the well method is not as challenging as it sounds. Basically, I have my flour, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a hole in the middle, or a well. And I'm just going to dump my liquid mixture right in the middle. Now, this would be the time that I usually go ahead and mix the dough together. I would take the fork and I would scrape around, adding a little bit of flour as I go. But for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of speed of this video, I already have a dough made. So, let's get down to business. So the dough that I have made, I have rested for a full day. Whenever it comes to pasta, you can go ahead and work with your dough as early as a half hour after you actually mix it. I prefer giving the dough more time. It just gives it this softer, lighter texture about it. Now, I've already kneaded this dough, but I do want to talk about the kneading process a little bit. So basically what my chefs in culinary school have taught me about making pasta is that kneading is sort of a fold and push scenario. So every time that you take your dough, you're going to fold it towards you and push, and you're going to use this part of your hand. It's going to make it really firm and give you a nice push on your dough. And what you're doing by kneading is you're creating what's called gluten. That's what gives you the bite in pasta, or else it would just fall apart and kind of be this gooey gummy mess, and nobody likes that. So, taking my pasta dough, I'm going to cut off just a piece of it. Whenever you're rolling, you don't want to work with too much dough because inevitably it could get caught in the machine and then you'll have a big nasty mess, and that's no good either. So I like to just work it with my hands. This is cold out of the fridge. I do suggest working with it at room temperature if you can. But because I made the dough yesterday, I did have to put it in the refrigerator because it does have perishable items in it. So all I'm really doing right now is flattening out the dough and prepping it to go through the machine. Now, I have one of these fancy KitchenAid rollers, the electric kind that actually do the cranking for you. If you have a hand crank machine, do not worry. This will work out the same for you, just slower, unfortunately. But this piece of equipment is $250, and I actually got it as a gift. So it's kind of special to have in my kitchen, frankly. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my machine on, and I'm just going to start putting the dough through my machine. Now it seems as though I put a little bit too much dough through, so I'm going to put that piece off to the side knowing that it's not going to fit. So now I'm just folding my piece. So I have this really big, long, funny looking piece, right? All I'm doing is folding it in thirds, and I'm going to flatten it out again. I'm working on getting more consistent of a shape by doing this. So, run it through the machine again. And see how I'm getting more of a rectangle now? But I'm going to do this same thing. This folding process is really important to making pasta dough because, again, like the kneading, it gives it sort of that mouthfeel, that toothiness that we're looking for, that gives you the texture in your dough. So all I'm doing is sealing up the areas that I've folded, and I'm going to run it again. Now that I've run it through number one a few times, I'm going to go ahead and start rolling down a few numbers. So what you're doing every time is the dough is becoming slightly and slightly more thin, which is beautiful because thin pasta dough is a blessing. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to roll it so thin that you end up with sort of just this doughy mess when it cooks out. Something like a raviolo or an agnolotti pasta, you're going to want a really thin pasta for because there's folding and crimping and layers involved. But for something like a linguine, which is what we're going to be doing today, you can go ahead and just roll down to a 6 or a 7, which out of 8 is, you know, relatively thick on that end of the scale. All I'm doing is just running it through, and see how my hand is holding this side up? Notice how I'm using the back of my hands. I'm really trying not to make any indentations into the dough with my fingers. Just gently guiding it along. I'm not letting it go on this far end either. Just letting it go entirely through. And now I'm going to set it down on my board. Now, that is number 6 on my roller. That is incredibly thin. That's nearly paper thin, I would say. So, feeling really happy about the roll on my pasta. Now, depending on what type of pasta you're going to make, you're going to want to adjust the sheets that you just went ahead and rolled out. So, because I'm doing a linguine pasta, I do want a bit of a longer noodle for just the sake of keeping it traditional. So I'm only going to cut my dough in half. So I'm going to have about a foot-long piece of dough right here, and that's how long the noodles are going to be. And what you'll notice is I just switched out the cutter as well. All I did was put on the piece that's going to turn this into linguine. And now you can see it's coming out the other end. Absolutely gorgeous looking pasta. Whoop. Check that out, you guys. Super cool. It's like hairs. I love it. Now, a very important step that you do not want to omit. Put a little bit of flour over your pasta once it is ready to go. This keeps it from sticking to each other. And if you go ahead and dry it, putting the extra flour on before you dry it is going to make an even drier product. So that's good for you too. But because I am not a connoisseur on drying pasta, I'm going to go ahead and cook this right away. So, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to talk to you about it. Basically, take a pot of water, not quite at a rolling boil, but at a boil. Season it so that it tastes like the sea. Now, what that means is a good amount of salt, because it's going to be seasoning your pasta. With fresh pasta, you're going to drop it in. It's only going to take about 30 seconds, you guys. Super fast, awesome stuff, okay? It's so simple, I can't even explain to you. Now, be wary of overcooking pasta, because it will, again, turn into that really clumpy dough ball, and we don't like that. Once the pasta does come out of the water, have your sauce hot and ready to go. Then all you're going to do is you're going to strain your pasta, put it right into your sauce, toss it around, and here is the expert level trick, you guys. Take about 3 tablespoons of your boiling pasta water. It's all starchy and amazing. Add it to your sauce. What it's going to do is it's going to help bring everything together. The sauce is going to coat to the noodles better, and you're going to have a much more silky product in the end. I hope you guys learned a lot about pasta from this episode. I'm sorry it's a little long, but because I do have this passion for pasta, I didn't want any shortcomings when it came to talking to you guys about this topic. So please send me photos of your pasta, like, subscribe, please, you guys, and happy eating, y'all.